Yeah, it's me, Alice, she, they, and I want to go through this apparent problem in Halo Infinite. So, at the moment, every time I started the game, settings would get reset, and I feel that this is a serious problem. Now I split up the game so I just check if it's being reset. Yep, that's being reset again, so yep. Already in salmon and those bits. Yeah, this is very embarrassing. It just means I have to reset everything and just like choose different colors for the enemies and the teammates. And I mean, this is quite ridiculous. This has been going on since like the start of like season 3, and I think this is a real problem because according to Twitter, they've 343 has already like sent out a patch out, and it's supposed to like fix a lot of problems, mainly to do with Forge. But according to the latest Twitter post by a certain user, they said that they're still looking at some issues, and that includes armor hole, which I think it kind of stutters whenever I go through it. Like, oh, could be alright. Oh, there we go. There's a bit of stutter too, so that's not good. But another problem that they're still looking at is to do with the settings being reset sometimes every time we reboot the game, and they're still investigating it. So I'm doing this video to tell you why the settings being reset is a serious problem. And I'm going to show you through why. Right now, it doesn't seem to affect the controller, which is good if you're trying to go for a particular controller scheme. Like, I still have the settings to turn off auto chain, clamber, been using the secret settings of Halo Infinite by another YouTube user. I'll find a link to it and put it in the description below. But it only like keeps some of the settings there, and I think it goes for the keyboard and mouse. The video's not affected, so you still have like target frame rate and the field of view not affected. And that includes sensory, there's audio being reset too, and that goes for like gameplay. But the real problem with this, and the settings being reset, is to do with the accessibility. Accessibility in this game is a very, very important when it comes to playing it to any game. I mean, granted, the latest games have been relying on accessibility to help out all users, but there's a lot of important settings for the game, and that includes enemy color and the player color, which some people have been setting the enemy color to like yellow instead of salmon, and I saw it in some of the streams, and I changed it to different colors because of my preference. And they've also been changing up the subtitles, which is turning them back on, and even resets the size from large to default, and that is it's pretty concerning for those who want larger text, and it keeps resetting to smaller text. It doesn't affect the visual or audio language, and it still remains the same with any console, so that's good. But I do feel that a lot of these settings being reset, and that even includes sensory, which is being reset. Like, people do not want motion blur. I even met someone who doesn't like motion blur and tends to turn it off. And it also affects the screen shake, exposure, full screen effects, as well as speed lines and sharpening. I think to me, this is a very, very serious problem, and I can tell you why. Many people rely on accessibility in order to play the game well and they can easily tell where the enemies are, or without having to be impacted. And they do rely on those settings, so it's easier for them to read text, see subtitles, or even easily identify what's happening on the game. And when you have these settings being reset, that is a very, very serious problem. I did say it's going to be a rant, but I'm not angry about it. I posted on the Reddit, and a lot of people seem to agree with me, because these settings are important for every person. Like, if they go in and they realise their settings have been reset and they have to redo those every time, that is a very, very concerning problem. And when these settings have been being reset, they have to go through the settings every time to redo the settings, and I have to do that too. And this is what really distances people from the game, even as far as not allowing them to keep playing the game. And that is not good. It just means that if people are not keeping their settings, then it does harm their user experience. But it's actually more of a warning to tell that if the accessibility settings are being reset every time, which this glitch actually affects, it can ruin on how people experience the game. Like, imagine if someone doesn't realise this is a glitch happening, and they come back to Season 3. They go back onto it, they play the game, and then they realise that the enemies are being reset to salmon when it's been yellow before, or the subtitles hasn't been done around, and even the gameplay, they keep seeing tips and tutorials as if they haven't played the game. And they also notice some unwanted effects like motion blur, or even HUD glow, and that is a serious issue. When something that really hampers the accessibility and resets to default, then this is a serious problem. This should be given top priority, and this needs to be addressed. And when this is still being investigated for 343, when the latest patch came out as of 29th of March, when the game has been reset with some new content, then this is turning into an actual problem, and I think this will throw more and more players away from this game. I just feel that this is not okay, and this needs to be given the highest priority right now to get the hotfix out and fix this issue, when this has been going on for over 3 weeks. Anyway, now I hope that 343 Industries understands this, and to be honest, with Season 3, I think this is a great update. There's more content, and I got more interested in it, and I like some of the interesting bits, and as you just saw here, it keeps asking you to skip cinematics or see them, and this happens every time whenever I play the game of some sort. But it does have a lot of good bits, like content, modes. I like a sense of style. And the shop, well, it does rely on high prices. Could have been worse about a year or two ago, but it's still not has a lot of value to it. And this here, for example, is a nice armor core, but you're actually paying 600 for, which is 300 for each core, when it's actually the same. And I feel it's just as I discussed on this podcast before with Lewis, it just means the cross-core is not happening soon, and I'm going to get around to this fact. But I think this is very worrying, and that people are overspending on those single coating for all cores, and same can be with Spring Grave, and that's not fun. But I do like the dailies coming back, giving people another chance to get Season 1 and 2 content. There's a Cambion skull helmet, as well as a Mother 7 one, and I think that's good. This one, it's alright, but the coating's a bit same, but it's also some of the weirdest bits there, like the coating and bits. This one, it's alright, but not worth like spending whole money for it. But the shop has improved. There's more attention to the forge maps, and I think the maze are great. But still, the glitches are still there, and it's still happening to many users who start the game. And I think it's not very clear on how we get around of the workarounds. And I think this is a very serious problem. It's not that I'm angry with it. I'm worried. I'm worried for the game, and I'm also worried on how this impacts users, especially those who rely on the accessibility settings. So I'm calling for 343 to pay more attention to this glitch, and I think it's important that, like, whenever it hampers the accessibility settings, it always needs to be given more attention. Anyway, this is Alice, Shade, and thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time on one of the podcast episodes, so take care.